Okay, so I'm going to start out with asking you something a little uncomfortable. So, what did you not do in quarter 1 that you said you would? Because if you're anything like me, you had plans, goals, maybe even a whole vision for like the entire year. And now we're here heading into quarter 2, starting today, and wondering what has happened, right? And so, if we have not met yet, I'm Michelle Rose, and I love helping midlife women start showing up in their lives in a beautiful way again. And so today we're going to be talking about if you're feeling behind, whether in midlife or just in 2026, especially when you finally have space in this season of midlife to focus on yourself, it still can feel like you're not moving fast enough, right? And so by the end of this, you're going to know exactly how to reset for quarter 2 without shame and overwhelm. And there'll be a plan that you can follow if you choose to. Because if you're needing a reset right now, quarter 2 is going to look just like quarter 1 if you don't do a reset. And so that gap between where you are and where you want to be, it's only going to get wider. And so I can tell you right now, I had big intentions for quarter 1, but I got distracted and lost focus at times. But something happened. I opened up an email this week to myself in a way that I was able to kind of get a refresh. And I scheduled these little pep talk emails to myself every quarter, and I always forget that I do it. And so when I read them and they show up, it comes across like, oh my goodness, I got an email from myself, right? And I just sat there thinking when I got this email this week, like, wow, this is what it sounds like to have someone who believes in you. And so don't worry, I'm going to share with you the template that I use for those emails. So if any of this is already hitting with you, make sure that you do follow or join the Facebook group, because this is the kind of conversation that we're having every week in how to make our lives more beautiful again. And so I'd love to know whether you're live or catching the replay, just the one thing that you want to happen in quarter 2 that you didn't follow through on quarter 1. But before we go running into quarter 2 with this brand new big plan, we need to do something that most of us naturally avoid. And so we need to look back. And these are those pages that are at the end of your monthly planner, the ones that ask you like what worked, what didn't work, what needs to change. And I used to skip right past those, right? Because in my mind, I already knew and had decided what the answer was. I had failed, right? Like I don't need to go back and debrief myself on that. And so I didn't want to look at those pages because I didn't want to face what I thought they were going to say about me as a person, right? But what I didn't understand was that's the difference between your next 30 days working and your next 30 days feeling exactly the same as last time. So when you actually stop and look back, you get to see what worked and carry that into the next one with purpose. And then you also get to see what didn't work just as information. Like we're not looking at it as a failure or anything like that, but just as information, as a chance to build something different. And so for me, when I looked back at these last 90 days, I realized I got too distracted with what was coming next after I finished my book manuscript when I hadn't even finished it yet, right? And so I let myself start living too far ahead. And that almost kept me from fully finishing the goal that I had in the first place that was right in front of me, which was finishing the manuscript. And so that almost cost me that goal. But thankfully, I did finish by the skin of my teeth on the last day. But it reminded me of something completely simple. And in Matthew 6:34, we're told not to worry about tomorrow because today has enough for itself, right? And so I was trying to live in tomorrow, while today needed my attention. And that's what looking back showed me when I looked back at those pages. Not that I was a failure or incapable like I thought the answer would have been, but just that I needed to have more focus. And so that is the gift of what I call cleaning the slate with those pages at the end of your monthly planner. You don't just see what went wrong, you get to see what actually worked and celebrate it, right? Because if you don't look back, you don't just miss what didn't work, you miss what did. And I think that matters because human nature naturally does not want to look back. at the past and face what felt messy, right? But if you never look back, you never get to celebrate what actually worked either. So cleaning the slate, it's not about beating yourself up. It's giving yourself a clear space to start again instead of carrying all that extra weight into quarter two. So once you've cleaned that slate, something really important happens. You stop approaching your goals from shame, right? Because I used to think I'm a failure. I don't even need to look at that. And now you can start approaching them with a little bit more wind in your sails because you just know, oh, I was just distracted. So now I need to maybe work on what I can do to eliminate those distractions. And that changes everything because when you're coming from shame, you feel like you need to shrink back, like you need to go figure out everything first and get it all perfect before you can show up. And when you release all of that, you come back with that curiosity, and it boosts your creativity and sparks it back, right? And so that's where things start adjusting and getting really fun. And it allows you also to figure things out as you go instead of always having to have it perfect first. But the truth is, clarity doesn't just come first. And I think that's where a lot of us do get stuck. We think we need clarity before we move or before we commit. And really, truly, clarity comes from the movement and the practice and seeing what works and what didn't, right? And so it's through that adjusting where we get clarity. So it means it's going to get messy. And we don't like messy as human nature. And we look at messy and think, I should have planned better. I should be further along by now. So we always make it about ourselves when it's messy, right? But messy isn't a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's just a sign that you're in the middle of it, that you're actually practicing. And anytime I feel like I want to shame myself for the messy, I have to remind myself that in Proverbs 14:4, it talks about how where there are no oxen, the stall is clean. But much increase and growth comes from the strength of the ox in that messy, right? So in other words, if you want everything to stay steady and tidy, nothing's going to grow. And you can have the tidy, nice place. But growth is going to look like a little messy. And that's something I've had to learn really hard about myself because I'm a people pleaser, a perfectionist, and all of those things. And instead of looking at the mess and thinking something's wrong now, I can start telling myself something completely different, right? Our mindset and the stories we tell ourselves are so important. And so now I can tell myself I'm practicing. I'm allowed to be new at this, right? That shifts everything because now instead of avoiding the mess, I can look at it. I can see the progress in it. I can actually celebrate it. And that's why I can now see, oh man, so much clarity comes from that practice, from being new and learning, right? And so when you allow yourself to practice instead of performing, you can stay in it long enough to actually become the woman you're trying to become. And so let's go ahead and get to it because I know what's happening right now. Like you're thinking, okay, like what do I actually do then? And here's my reset. You don't need a new pretty planner. I love planners, and I could be really happy and thrilled with just buying a new planner every time. You don't need more ideas on YouTube. I love chasing that down too, right? But what you need for a reset is actually to execute and move to action. And so here's what this looks like. First, you need to tell yourself the truth about what you did, right? Not what you meant to do or planned to do, but what did you actually follow through on, right? For me, I didn't hit everything I wanted in quarter one, but I did finish my manuscript, right? And that matters because that was one of my biggest goals. And so if you skip that step, you don't get to celebrate and you walk into quarter two like already defeated and deflated, and it'll make you stay repeating that same cycle. So second, you choose what actually matters for you to place your quarter two focus. And so this is something I told you I'm working on, right? So you don't want to pick 10 goals, and you don't want to put a fresh list every time to make you feel productive. Like I love on planners when they give you like your top 3, but then it ends up being 10, and then I end up at the end of the day and nothing got done, right? Like when everything feels important, nothing gets your full attention. Okay. And so you have to decide what matters now for my focus. Third, you have to decide what you're showing up for daily. And this is where I think a lot of women, it gets complicated because so much is required of us in our day, right? And we can get into the day with good intentions and it can all fall apart. But I don't want you to wait till you're ready or until you have 2 hours a block of time or anything like that, not till you're motivated or feel clear. You're going to have to know what will you do even when you don't feel like it, right? So when that alarm goes off in the morning, when it's inconvenient, when it feels boring, I know I've had to do some of that because editing a book is not fun. That is where your future is built. When you choose what matters most to put your focus on, that's when you get to anchor yourself back into the direction you're trying to head and who you're trying to become. Because I can't trust myself day to day with my emotions, how I'm going to feel. And of course, when I go to bed at night, I'm always feeling great about what I want to do the next day, but I have to do it even when it's hard. And so I don't leave my focus up to how I feel. So it is fun because I have scheduled an email to myself ahead of time. Like I said, at the start of every quarter, I write another one for the next quarter. And so when it shows up, it reminds me of who I am and why I chose that goal in the first place. And I usually schedule it to show up a couple of days before the second quarter's done so that I can maybe push through to the finish line, right? So if you want the exact outline I use for those letters, it's going to be in the worksheet inside the Facebook group and you can get it there. But hear me, this letter, it's not magic, but the decision to reset and execute is what makes it happen. And so I want to say that if you feel behind in 2026, as we start in quarter two, like you're not behind, you're learning in a new season. And one day you will be an expert on that subject, right? And it will flow out of you without effort. And so quarter two, don't try to prove anything to anyone or even yourself, right? You just show up on all the unglamorous days in the messy, doing one little piece, because if you make 1% of a change in 100 days, it's 100%. So that compound effect really does happen. But lots of midlife women are at the same crossroads, right? Where you see that you're behind and either you want to quit or you finally get serious and life becomes beautiful again. And so quarter one often is a place where if you're willing to clean the slate, will show you where things did and didn't work, right? And so in quarter two right now is where you get to decide. Like, are you going to keep repeating the cycle or actually changing it? So the world needs what you have to bring and offer. Just your 5 loaves and 2 fish. You just show up. God does the miracle, right? You don't need more time, a better plan to wait until life slows down because the Holy Spirit gets to guide you. Right? So whatever your goal is for quarter two, I pray that you decide that your life, your health, your calling is all worth showing up for on those unglamorous days, because no one is coming to build it for you, but you are not doing it alone either. You've got the Holy Spirit, you've got the ladies in the Facebook group, and of course, all your friends and family. And so I just want to encourage you to start today messy on purpose and then do it again the next day, right? And so next week, we're going to be talking about weight loss, what you gain, more energy, more strength, and something that's going to last and bring vibrancy into this next season and make it more beautiful again. So feel free to invite a friend and join us to come listen.